This capital Sage. Now that we on the same page, it's spelt with an O like you're talking about money. I'm finna tell you about the time that I dated a man that was way too old for me. You could call me Grandma Sage. It's story time. I was struck with inspiration to tell this story because if somebody had told me, maybe I wouldn't have went through all this shit. This finna be all over the place. I'm gonna tell you that now. Just like this goddamn story I'm finna tell you. This shit is ratchet than a motherfucker. I used to be very ratchet. What's funny is that when people look at me, they be like, you look like you never been through anything. I don't know if they serious or not. But anyhow, it's capital Sage, and that's all I can be. Been through many names and many times, but I've always been me. That was a bar, and this is some hot tea, metaphorically and physically. Am I ever gonna get to it? We'll see. It's capital Sage. Random. Full of random wisdom. Can you hear me okay? Whoever might be listening, I hope you can hear me okay. The time that I dated a man that was too old. This story might be long, it might be short. We'll see. This how it started. I had just came back from New Orleans. I had went to stay there for 6 weeks. I went to Mardi Gras, but that's a different story. I had just came back and my dreams had not come true yet, which is what I expected when I went to New Orleans. So I came back. I'm living with my sister in the ghetto, and I don't got no motherfucking money. So my dumb ass went to the worst ghetto, met up with a friend who happened to be a drug dealer, and told him my situation. Because we had made music together a couple times, so he kind of knew me. Another one of them people that thought I was hella innocent, which I guess I am. I try to keep it as organic and honest as possible, which you about to see in this video. Now that we all caught up and we on the same page, I was in the ghetto with my friend that sold drugs. And I told him my situation. I just came back from New Orleans. My shit ain't pop off the way I wanted it to. I'm living with my sister and I ain't got shit going. Can you help me out? He started giving me a 3-5 of weed. And he was like, look, you can split this little 3-5 up. It'll make you some little money. I got these little liquor bottles. These little airplane Ciroc bottles. And you can sell those and then every day bring me the money back, the base money, and then you could keep the little extra money. I said, okay, because I was wild and free. So I had bagged up my little grams that I was selling for $15. It was really probably a 0.7. And I was walking around on foot with 5 Ciroc bottles and probably 5 of these grams that I was selling for $15. And I would do this every day. I was doing this every day for probably 2 weeks. I would walk a 5-mile radius and I would speak to everybody that I seen in that 5-mile radius. It was over 7 years ago. Am I supposed to say that? It was over 7 years ago, so this is not a statute type of thing. I'm over it anyway. Capital Sage. So, as I'm walking my 5-mile radius, my final destination was to a very popular area of town that people from ATL know me from. I walked to this popular area of town, and on the 10th day, I seen a man sitting outside of a pizza shop, and he waved at me with his little fingertips like he knew me, and he had this little glint in his eye. I was like, do I know you? I'm going to keep it real with you right now. The reason that I stopped and spoke to him was because I said his old ass gonna buy some weed for me if it's the last thing that happens today. So I knew I didn't know him. He waved at me like he knew me, and I knew it was something fugazi about that. But I wanted him to buy some weed and some Ciroc. So he comes over and he has his little mojo going. I was 25 at the time. I forgot to tell you these things. Um, he came over and he started talking to me, and I was just like, I'll give you my phone number if you buy this weed, because I've been walking around all day. I'm trying to get me something to eat and, wrap up what I have going on. So I'll talk to you, but I want you to buy this weed and this alcohol from me. He says, oh, I got all that at the house already. I already got all that. I was like, but I'm not going to talk to you or give you my phone number unless you buy this weed or Ciroc from me. Standing my ground. Boom, bam, bip. Like, I didn't ask for money. I'm asking you to support my hustle because you want to talk to me. Ain't nobody trying to just go get drunk with you. I'm trying to make my $20. You feel me? So he bought the weed and the Ciroc. He gave me $20. Let me stop right here. I'm at a point now where if you're going to support me, you need to support me. If I tell you that I'm selling some weed and some Ciroc, the weed is $15 and the Ciroc is $5, and you trying to talk to me, why would you give me exact change? That might be another video. I mean, why would you give me exact change? So anyway, he gave me exact change, and I gave him my phone number. We're texting, saying we're going to link later. Because mind you, I was 25. After I had finished my rounds a couple hours later, it was probably 8:30 at night. It was like early evening, nighttime. I had been walking around all motherfucking day, but I ended up getting my hot wings and my lemonade and my fries because that was the reason that I had, got up in the first place. I wanted my little money. And I had probably smoked a blunt and drank a Ciroc bottle or two, Because mind you, I was 25. So it's probably 7:30. I text him and I say, I'm wrapping up my rounds for the day. You said you wanted to get together. What's up? He texts me back and says, yeah, we can link. It's to the best of my memory. I don't know what he said. But he said, yeah, we can link. What I do remember is that he had me waiting for an hour and a half. It's a red flag. This entire situation is a red flag. This video is not about it being red flags. It's just I do hope that I can put somebody on game because this was a mess. He had me waiting an hour and a half. I immediately forgave him when he drove up in an Audi because his little raggedy white tee wearing self did not look like he drove an Audi. Which I later come to find out that he bought off a lot in a junkyard somewhere by chance. Anyway, moving on. He come pick me up an hour and a half late, listening to Paramore or Britney Spears, something that I thought was strange for his ass to be listening to. I almost didn't get in the car because, nigga, why you had me waiting an hour and a half? and then you show up smiling as if it's not an hour and a half after you said you would be here. But I got in the car because I was 25. Somehow, if I know myself, I was drawn in by the weed and alcohol because I was a strong alcoholic. That might be another story. We got in his car and went straight to his house, bitch. When we got there, he had a big screen TV with the fat back, and it was hella shit in his apartment. I'm talking about right here was the auto mechanic section of the apartment. Over here was the bike mechanic section of the apartment. Over here was the hot plate where he never cooked at. In the refrigerator was Kroger. He had so much shit in that refrigerator. I was just like, damn, is it the apocalypse already? But what I did notice is that he had 6 packs of beer in quantity. He had a bar with big bottles of liquor in quantity. And he told me he already had the weed. And this is probably around the time when Loud first came out in Atlanta. Because on the East Coast, we used to smoke mid. Mind you, now I'm 34. So this was almost 10 years ago. Back in the day, we used to smoke mid with the seeds. So Loud had just started to really permeate the market. I had been smoking Loud since I was like 21, but it was still kind of fresh. So I'm like, do you have mid or Loud? I can't remember which one he had because at this point, I don't even smoke no more. So it's not something that I retain. But he had the weed, he had the liquor, and he had the beer. Needless to say, I spent the night. Important to say, I didn't sleep with him for 6 months. Filling that gap, I never left his house because I was 25. He originally told me that he was 37. For some reason, my little intuition was telling me that wasn't true. So one day when he went to sleep in his chair, I looked at his ID to see if that was true. I come to find out the second day that I spent the night at his house that he was 50. Yes, motherfucker. 50. I was 25. He was 50. I immediately said to myself, if this person told me that they're 37 years old and I find out that they're 50, I probably shouldn't fuck with this nigga. My immaturity, which is what got me into the situation, told me that I'm gonna stay here and prove this nigga wrong about everything he thought about me because he shouldn't have motherfucking lied. Now that I'm older, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. That's probably the game I'm trying to share in this conversation. Let's get it. I woke him up and I said, why did you tell me you were 37 and you 50? He said, you want to talk about this in the morning? I said, no, motherfucker, I want to talk about it now. He was like, I can't talk about it now. Worst lie. Why you can't talk about it? So I think that night I might have went back to my sister's house. But the weed selection and the alcohol selection was calling my motherfucking name. And so I called him back. I think it was like 2 weeks. That might be another little tidbit of game. When you're 25, you think 2 weeks is doing something. Ask Capital Sage. So at 25, I started living with a 50-year-old man because he didn't ask me to pay for anything. He bought me 3 meals a day, and I could have all the drinks and weed that I wanted. And I'm talking about all of it. To me, I had come up. Some people have sugar daddies. I had a daddy. And I thought I was living the dream because my dreams was not working. So months passed. I found a job that I used to go to work drunk every motherfucking day. I found an internship at a music studio that had Grammy plaques on the wall. So I really thought that I was doing it. He had bicycles, so I'd be out riding my bike all around the city, going to see my friends. He didn't stop me from going to see my friends. He didn't stop me from making music. He didn't stop me from working. So I felt like it was the perfect situation. He's paying for everything. I'm not sleeping with him. He's not stopping me from doing anything that I want to do. And I'm not paying for anything. I was 25. What I did notice is that this nigga was always in my face. Like, literally right here. Where's my camera? He was literally right here at all times. And I thought that was strange. Of course, it was before I realized that people just do that. But back then, I was just like, why is this nigga always in my face? And it would make me angry because I was already angry. I had issues, which is probably why I was 25 at a 50-year-old nigga's house anyway. He had a bed in a bedroom. I slept in the living room on the couch. Instead of sleeping in his bed, he would always, you see what I did? I was probably his bed. As capital H. Or not. Don't ask me without my permission. Too old for that shit now. But anyway, instead of sleeping in his bed, he would sleep in his recliner right motherfucking next to me every night. And I'm just like, dude, like, maybe if you relaxed, I'd fuck you. You know? Like, you're really in my ear. But he just decided that he would rather be 50 and creepy than 50 and sex down by a 25-year-old. So that's why it took me 6 months to sleep with him. What ended up happening was one night I got wasted drunk. He took me out for nachos, and you know how nachos and alcohol make you feel, don't you? Very ready to fuck. I said, them nachos was busting, that vodka was busting, and I'm ready to bust it. So I just decided it was the perfect time to lay it on down, and I don't remember that, but I know it happened. So after 6 whole months of him paying all my bills, I fucked him. I thought I was winning. I said I was a lady. I kept it together. And that was kind of a ball of shit, if I was to be 100% honest. I was just being ratchet. I was 25 and I was dating a nigga that was 50. But what is the most red flaggy about it is that I thought we were dating. That's not dating. That's being taken advantage of because I was stupid. And from my end, that was just stupid. I was uncared for and unpaid attention to by those around me. Real talk. Because wasn't nobody stopping me from doing this shit. Wasn't nobody calling me saying, what is you up to? What's that nigga up to? What he got going? Tell me the dirt. What's the tea? So I'm just kicking it with this nigga for months and months and months at a time. And he was my only steady friend. But I had all these other things going on because I always like to keep an attachment to the real world, regardless of what it might look like. So I was doing my record industry stuff. I was doing my jobs here and there when I got the chance, when I wasn't being relying on the fact that this nigga is paying all of my bills, including my food. So I just was really having a good time living on his couch, not paying for anything. I turned into an absolute drunk. I drank down all his bottles. When I first got there, he probably had 15 bottles of the big shit, ranging from the cheap shit like McClintock vodka to Remy Martin and all the in-betweens. I drank all that shit. At one point, it was just like, okay, all of my liquor's gone. We started going to the liquor store every day. It's like, oh, it's only a $40 tab. Let's get a big bottle of some liquor. I was calling myself Jose Cuervo. I said, let's get a big bottle of some liquor and a 6-pack of some IPA every day, and then a little 20-pack of some weed. And I will fucking probably once a month. This was just a recipe for disaster. A woman trapped in a small apartment, drunk as fuck, high as fuck, very feisty, with a 50-year-old creep. We definitely started fighting. One day I woke up with a black eye at my friend's house. I don't know how I got there. That's another story. I woke up with a huge softball-sized black eye. And my friends was just like, damn, So my sister come pick me up, seen my black eye, and said, we going to the police. She didn't say it like that. She kind of left it up to me, because my sister kind of G. She was like, do you want to go to the police? I said, you know what? I'm pissed off. Let's do it. I went to the police and filed a police report. I said some little shit like, oh, you don't have to make it too criminal. Something like that. And I don't think I talked to him again for maybe a month. I can't remember. This shit was so long ago. And that was pretty much the end of it in my mind. But somehow I ended up bumping into him again. He told me that he spent 5 days in jail. And I was just like, damn, you shouldn't have blacked my eye. He told me a lie and said that I came home and kicked his door open. And I said, do I look like I can kick in a door? Fuck, nigga. But anyway, we ended up back in that same apartment where all that bullshit had happened. And I was still a drunk. And I was still smoking weed. I also was dibbling and dabbling in other things. But that's another story. So I don't really know if I can remember the exact sequence of events because my life is full. You understand me? But when I came back, I know that things got worse emotionally. He was the type that everything that you do is going to compound my weirdness and my passive aggressiveness. So it was like a game to him. It seemed like, I don't know what the fuck he was thinking, honestly. But it was a game to him. It seemed like of the more annoyed that we can make this situation, the more pleasurable it was for him to express his passive aggression. So the way that he skated around this relationship was to never be actually aggressive, but to respond with extreme passive aggression. So everything that I said and did seemed to turn his shit on. He was just like, oh yes, now I got somebody I can fight with passive aggressively. Yeah, let's do this. Like, the nigga was very excited to be passive aggressive with me. And I didn't know at the time, but I was very passive aggressive also, which is probably why I enjoyed the situation somewhat, on top of the weed and alcohol. But by this time, I just would go to his house and sleep. I'd be at the studio. I might spend the night at the studio. I would come back. I would sleep at his house. I would borrow his bikes. I would wear his clothes. And he used to just allow me to come and go as I pleased. He gave me a key to his apartment the second day that I knew him, so I would just come and go as I pleased. I would spend all his money, drink all his liquor, and smoke all his weed. I would have sex with him once a month. I was very passive aggressive with him also, but I was 25. I could do what the fuck I wanted. He was 50. Nigga should have known that that's what I was gonna do. And I think he did know, so whose fault was it really? Ask Capital Sage. His. So, I think there was a second fight a little ways down the line. But here's where things got hella weird. I was a free spirit. I started thinking that me and him could have something. Because I'm like, we obviously got some type of chemistry. If we spending this amount of time together, we keep dealing with each other. You keep spending money on me. No matter what happens, you let me come back. So I started to suggest certain things to him that I wanted for my life because I said, maybe this nigga will pay for it. So this was me inviting him into my life, which is something that you don't do, young girls or young men, young binaries, young non-binaries, and all the in-betweens. This is something that you don't do from Capital Sage when you date a man that's too old. Don't start inviting him into your life plans because he might pay for them. Unless you're ready to be about that shit, because now shit's getting serious. I'm inviting you into my thoughts. That is a big step, which is not, in my opinion, worth somebody's money. You shouldn't be able to pay your way into my thoughts. Without my consent. Like, I should know what type of game I'm getting myself into. But I didn't because I was 25. I told him that I wanted to be a sovereign. I wanted to live off the land. And I wanted to travel and be free and do all of these things that free people do and not have to worry about the constraints of living. So I told him that if it was up to me, I would buy an RV so that way I could travel around like how I had did when I went to New Orleans. It's like you could just pick up and drive anywhere and already have your house. Don't that shit make sense? So this nigga went out and bought an RV. A cheap, dirty, ugly RV. It wasn't even nice. So that's how my journey began. But all I knew was that he bought an RV. I think he bought it in the time that we had got into a fight. So I didn't see him for like 2 or 3 months. But when I came back, he wasn't living in the apartment no more. He was living in the RV. So I was like, oh shit, you know what I mean? You got an RV now? Oh, that's dope. What was undope about it was that this RV was broken down and it was parked in the back of a parking lot for 2 or 3 years. And that's where we spent the next part of our stupid ass encounter. A few notable things happened that I'm just gonna keep it real with y'all because hashtag Ask Capital Sage is Capital Cult and my experience is your experience. Let's get it. A couple notable things happened. Number one day I got so drunk, I went to his friend's house with him. And all night I just flirted with his friend's wife, until they kicked us out. I just kept begging her to let me eat her out because I used to be a bisexual. That was hella embarrassing. Another thing I did was fuck somebody that I don't remember. That was hella embarrassing. Another thing that I did was we had kind of broke up, so I had another boyfriend. So I would go back and forth between that boyfriend's house and his house, which is another just hot mess. One other noticeable thing I did was know that happened there with him, because something that can happen when you are in an older, younger relation, fucked upness, is that you can start to internalize all the things that the person's doing. I did my dirt, but he was also 50 and manipulated me. One day, he told me that he wanted to have sex. I had sex with him as least as possible because I hated him. I hated his guts. I hated him. But I stayed because he paid for everything. Anytime I asked him to pay for something, he bought it. And I don't know what that is. It's a red flag, but at the same time, that's the situation I was in. But one day, I was like, I don't want to have sex with you. He was like, I'll give you some money. I said, I'm not a hoe. He said, I'll give you a lot of money. I said, how much? He said, I'll give you all the money in this envelope. I said, how much is it? He said, about $3,000. I was like, I'll do it for 5 minutes. I set a timer, did it for 5 minutes. It turned out to be 4. He gave me the money in the envelope. I cracked the envelope. It's $1,700. I said, God damn it. You know what I mean? Because that was a juxtaposition. It was like, now you done made me go lower than my standards on some fuck shit. But it's still a lot of money, and I only did this for 4 minutes. Needless to say, I spent that money in probably 3 weeks balling. Balling on me and my friends. Spent that money in 3 weeks because my soul probably knew that I didn't deserve that the way that I got the money. I spent that money up. Ended up going back to him 3 weeks later, hella broke. He probably tried to act all concerned. You heard that? Look. He probably tried to act all concerned, but what I'm learning is that he probably knew all the shit I was gonna do because he had been 25 before, 25 years earlier. He had been 25. That shit was not new to him. So I come back like, oh, all the money gone. He probably like, damn. But inside, he's like, and? So the next year, we're just living in this RV that have no walls, in a parking lot, with no friends or interactions, isolated with this nigga, being squished into his perception of me, drowning in 50-year-old anger and bitterness, which is probably the real reason that he wanted me around. Some 25-year-old energy into his needless, pointless 50-year-old existence, filled with bitterness and disappointments, just to ruin my experience. That's what it felt like. It's like, okay, I'm paying for all this by him being able to ruin my 20s. He still let me come and go as I please, but every time I came to his house, it was disappointment and bitterness from his end. And I was just his scapegoat dummy, which is another story when I learned about what a scapegoat was and how I had been that. But anyway, that's another story. So every now and again, we would fight. One day, he came to me. He told me he wanted to have sex, which was always a chore for me because I hated him. I was 27. I said, I don't want to have sex with you. He kept asking. I said, I don't want to have sex with you. He kept asking. I said, I told you I don't want to have sex with you. He kept asking. I said, you know what? Go get me a bottle and I'll have sex with you and make sure it's nice. He brought back a big ass bottle of gin. I hate gin. He brought back a huge ass bottle of gin. I think it was Bombay gin. I drank 3/4 of that bottle, and 2 weeks later, I was pregnant. "27." I met him when I was 25. 27, I was pregnant. Damn. Can I stop right there? Like, this is what happened when I dated an older man. I'm talking about, oh gosh. Like, everything's sweet till you end up pregnant. Bruh. I took it like a G. I stopped drinking the day I found out. He suggested abortion. I said no. And I just started living with him on the regular. And I said, I'm finna start treating him like he's my man because now we're having a baby. I started trying to clean the house and cook for him and like, oh, maybe we can have nice conversations. Maybe now we can actually go together. Forget all that shit, all this shit that happened. Now we having a baby. 3 months in, we got into a nasty fight. I pulled a knife on him and nearly sliced my finger off trying to cut his tires. He had punched me and all type of shit. I got pissed off. I tried to cut his tires. The knife closed on my hand and almost cut my pinky clean off. This is what happened when I dated an older man. Shit, man. So I went to the hospital. The lady who stitched my finger up told me, leave now. It only gets worse the more pregnant that you get. I did leave. But after I gave birth, we started kicking it again. That part was filled with my child. So I don't know if there was as many interesting stories, but there was another fight. After that, I left and I don't think I went back. So much has happened since then. My life is full of stories. But basically, to recap, this is what happened when I met an older man. When I dated an older man. I was out being wild with no guidance, nigga. Drunk as a skunk. High as a kite. Meandering through life. And this nigga just waved at me like he knew me. I wanted him to buy a gram of weed and a Ciroc. And I ended up becoming a stupid alcoholic because I was already an alcoholic. I ain't gonna blame that completely on the situation. I was already an alcoholic. But I became a day drunk alcoholic. Hella alcoholic. Which led to fights and me getting pregnant. I really hope that helped you. At this point, I'm going to be honest and just say what I have learned from the situation. When people have problems, it's their problem and it's not yours. Niggas be having issues. Don't blame yourself for that bullshit. Anybody who 50 that would date a 25-year-old got some shit going on. And it's not your fault, boo-boo. So don't feel responsible for this nigga and his annoying behavior. It is not your fault and it's not your responsibility. No, you didn't do it because the nigga was 25 when you was born and you're 25 now. You feel me? So anything that he mad about happened before you were born. Do you smell my tea? It's not your goddamn fault. But he gonna make it feel like it's your fault because he's spending all his money on you. If you let a nigga spend all type of money on you, you can expect shit like the story I just told you. I'm not even going to delve into that because put 2 and 2 together. I made a whole video. Don't make me write it for you with your pencil. Like, if somebody spends money on you, this the type of shit that can happen. Especially if they're 50 and you're 25 and you ain't bringing much to the table. I felt like I brought drama and excitement to the table, though, which is what people pay for. So I will say that. But what I had also learned from that situation was that I could be bought, which at the time I made all type of excuses to say I can't be bought. But what bought me was my desire for weed and alcohol, my desire to be a bum, my desire to have a man on my motherfucking ass and on my time, my desire to show off for my friends that wasn't even friends enough to tell me, bitch, he's 50, you don't need to spend so much time with him, aka come hang out with us. They just somewhere in a corner laughing at my debacles because I thought they were my friends. You know? I mean, we were all the same age, but real recognize real, and I don't recognize that. But basically, I made it through it, and I end up having other very significant phases of my life before and after that. So in the moment, even if you're in the situation, in the moment, it felt like, oh, this shit is like the biggest thing that has ever happened to me. It was very significant in my 20s. But I got over it and I did other things. I have other very significant parts of my life. And when you grow up, you see, okay, it's just because I was young. This person was not God. This person was not everything. This person was not all knowing. This person was not the master chess player that I just could not beat. I was 25, and that was the truth of the matter. So, all of those pressures that a young woman might feel in that situation, or a young non binary, etc., it's because you're 25. That person's not God, because it could just be very overwhelming, but it's because a 50-year-old is impressing their maturity on a 25-year-old because they're lame. When I got older, I definitely got to see that. Okay, this person's a lame. Oh, which I knew when I was 25, but I didn't have the vernacular to explain it. So that's my story. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments. I just thought it was interesting to share for the She Basquiat content installments. When I dated an older man. Hashtag Ask Capital Sage. And now that we on the same page, till next time.